What is going on? Welcome back. Episode 70, Big 70, Third and 20 podcast. My name is Frank Entwistle. We got Mr. Steed. What's going on?
What up? What up? What's going on?
All right, first topic of the day. It's funny because we were kind of saying this for the past 2 weeks, and then it actually happened after a win against Florida, which was a little surprising. Coach O
hmm
out of LSU. Can't really say I'm surprised, right?
No, I'm not surprised at all. I I think what bad loss did they have? It was whoever they lost to after UCLA. It was just you could see Coach O. He's not built for this unless he has that juggernaut team like he did in 2019, which he doesn't. I At the end of the day, Coach O is probably like a really great guy, a good recruiter because LSU still gets some good ranked recruits. But I just he's not cut out to be at these top level schools in the SEC. Every week you got to battle and try to beat Bama, UGA, and even at this point, I mean they're losing Auburn and they had a gutsy win against Florida, but that was more Florida like kind of screwing up. But Coach O will definitely find himself another job after this. Head coaching, I don't know. He's going to have to take a smaller gig, but a program will definitely look at him as a locker room morale kind of guy.
So the three losses that LSU have this year, they're currently 4-3. Week one at UCLA was definitely a shocker to a certain extent. A lot of people were high on LSU. Then they lost back-to-back games in October to Auburn and Kentucky, with that Kentucky
hmm
game really being an embarrassing game. And now they just won against Florida, but you can't say it was very pretty. They got it down on the ground. This their running back Davis Pierce. This dude was absolutely shredding the Florida defensive line. They were kind of just spamming power and counter, and
hmm
a battered up LSU offensive line was getting the job done. Davis Pierce was doing what he needed to do. It felt like he was getting 8, 9, 10 yards a clip, especially in the second half of that game. They just couldn't stop him. He had 36 carries for 286 yards, which was
Yeah, that's
or
pretty insane.
287 yards, excuse me, 3 touchdowns. But the fact of the matter is that this LSU team just isn't on the level of the other top SEC teams, even with a good performance here against Florida. And I think like LSU's not a bad team, right? They're not bad. They're just not at that level that you're expecting them to be, right? They're expected to be a Georgia. They're expected to be competing with Alabama. Not necessarily saying that they need to be beating Alabama every year, but you need to be beating them, and then be a step ahead of the teams like Auburn, right? And Coach O just wasn't able to do that consistently.
No, I mean he had one good year with it. I mean the year before that too, they were competitive, but yeah, he could just never get them to this consistent strength where like they were a dominant force. I mean, you look at last year, they struggled uh, mightily. They had a couple good wins, but like at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure they went under 500 still. So that was a telltale sign. Then you come back this year and they're not playing great ball. Like you had a good showing against Florida. You beat a ranked opponent, but again, like you're LSU, like like when we think of SEC, we think Bama, UGA, and like LSU's in that same picture too. And them just kind of falling out of this being relevant. It's time for a change. And you got to find someone in there who can win more games at a stable pace.
Do you think it was too early though? Would you have given him the rest of the season coming off like a big win against? And I mean, Florida definitely played like crap. They turned the ball over a ton, but it was still a good win. And the LSU team is kind of battered. Like, would you have given him
I
till
don't
the
know.
end of the season to see if you can get in on get the season going on a high note?
I mean, that's a good point. I wouldn't. I would have fired him. I wouldn't have been like, you can you're gone after this season, but you can finish the season. I would have just cut him.
Yeah, but
But
what if he
I
comes out with
again
a
never.
win What if just miracle scenario, back-to-back wins at Ole Miss, at Alabama with an injured LSU team? That doesn't
They're not
change your
beating Bama.
mind?
Oh, they're
Yeah, well,
not
I'm
beating
just saying,
Bama.
what if scenario? What if he does that and comes with back-to-back wins? That
All
doesn't
right.
change your
Well,
mind?
if that happens, then I think LSU needs to look at themselves and be like, can we, undo this? Because it that would be insane if he was able to rip off those wins. Like I could see him winning next week, but to play against Bama, there's going to be talent drop off there, and Saban's a better coach than Coach
Yeah,
O.
it's not going to happen. They're not going to beat Bama in Tuscaloosa. I was just throwing it out there as a hypothetical.
I mean, that would be a good thing for Coach O if he was able to do that, and if he was off the market, then teams are going to come calling.
Yeah. I think that it's just the level of talent that LSU has had the past 2 years. They're just, if you're going to be one of these recruiting coaches, you have to have the best recruits. You have to have a talented team every year, right? Because Dabo and Clemson, they're struggling, but you can see that they have a ton of, at least defensively, they have a ton of talent. And
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean
they're
that's the only reason why
performing.
they're relevant.
It's offensively, it's a problem right now. And I think that everyone agrees within a year or two, you just clean house to a certain extent and have a whole slew of new players and more veteran players. Like it can completely 180 in one offseason. But you were the number one team a couple of years ago and you've been a shell of your former stuff. You have to just be able to replenish. That's what all the good teams do. And
Mm-hmm.
it just seems like they weren't able to.
Yeah, and they haven't been able to. Maybe it's also a little bit, offense or like strategy wise, since Joe Brady left too, just doesn't feel the same. But again, they had so many great players on that team. It's just comparing night and day. I think there's a talent drop off, and LSU needs to hit the refresh button. Coach O, you had your moment there at LSU. You did a good job. You won a natty. The program couldn't ask for much more. But this is a team or a program that believes that they should be in that top four every single year, fighting against Bama and UGA. And he's just not cutting it. And the SEC is just, it's that tight. Everybody wants to win, and if you're not the guy for it, you got to cut them.
Yeah, I just wonder who they're gonna replace him with. Like what's gonna
I
go on
mean,
there.
anybody in the world, this is going to be like the number one job, unless like some weird stuff happens, like Oklahoma, like Lincoln Riley leaves Oklahoma or something like that. But like, this is going to be people are going to want this job very bad.
Yeah, they still have some good players hanging around there. Um, it's gonna be wild to see. I didn't really expect it to happen this soon. At least be
Yeah,
announced
it
or
kind of
anything,
shocked
right?
me. Yeah, like it kind of just shocked me because like I brought it up a couple weeks ago and we talked about it, and to actually see it play through and be like, "Yo, you're gone, but you can finish off the season," was kind of like shocking because I felt like LSU is the type of program that would definitely would have saw it out to the end, or at least thought they owed Coach O that much. But now I'm sure they're already looking for head coaches right now who's going to be on the market, and they're like, "Hey, Coach O, out of respect, you can finish the year."
I mean, maybe Coach O, maybe it was a little bit more mutual than we're coming at. And Coach O
Maybe it
also
was.
partly wanted to leave because of the fact that he didn't have just outright job security. The fact that maybe behind the scenes there was some meetings or there was some rumblings that he just didn't want to, because he had that great season. And LSU is injured this year. I will throw in a little bit of that caveat, right? I'm not gonna, like, the season's not entirely on Coach O. Um, and even last year to a certain extent, he just, like you said, it's LSU. There's a certain level of expectation that you're supposed to uphold, and it just hasn't happened. So maybe he just wanted to go to some place that had a little bit more stability, a place that he could really be there long term and feel and have that sense of security long term.
Yeah, I think he would be a great. I mean, maybe he goes back to the Pac-12 to one of those schools. I mean, USC needs a head coach now. You know, Does he go back there? Could possibly. I mean, you can see him flip flop back there, but I think he's more, which is weird to say for a guy that won a national championship. I think he's made out. If he wants to head coach, I think he's made out for a non-power five. You know,
Serious? No, come on.
I do.
Non-power five.
I don't know. There's something about Coach O that
He's a
I
good
don't think.
recruiter. He needs to go to a team that just needs to up their talent level, right? Where it's just like it doesn't matter what kind of schemes you have because the talent is just not there to a certain extent. They're just not able to recruit. Maybe USC is the fit because I mean USC gets the recruits though. That's the only thing. It's not like USC has a ton of a talent issue, but maybe he does bring that USC program to the top level. You know, maybe he does change that up a little bit.
Yeah, I think he would be. I doubt he goes somewhere in the SEC. Plus, I don't even know who's looking to hire in the SEC unless it was like you know a staffing job. You know, like
South Carolina might want to use him. Like,
I mean, yeah, like he would fit in well here. I think that would be
I
a
actually
great
do
fit.
think
But
that South Carolina. I don't know why. It just doesn't make. I feel like that they're going to give Beamer longer, but
oh yeah, unfortunately they will. But
the team is so bad.
yeah, team's horrible. But I don't know. Like you saw, like a Will Muschamp. You know, when he got fired, and then he joined like Georgia as like a defensive analytic guy or something like that. You know, some
Consultant, I
BS.
think it was.
Yeah, defensive consultant, some BS. But like maybe Coach O could do something like that alongside of like really focusing in on the recruiting and locker room. But again, like at the end of the day, I think he's going to look at it more like, hey man, I've had success as a head coach here.
Yeah,
I
he's going to
can
be a head
coach
coach.
them.
If he wants to be a coach, he's going to be the head coach. He's not going to go for some bullshit. I don't think. Let's move
Yeah.
on. We're going to talk about the Heisman and the updates
Ooh.
on the Heisman Trophy race. I'll kick it off here. I'm thinking Matt Corral right now. I'm pretty sure he's the betting favorite. And to me, aside from the fact that you kind of wish that Ole Miss was like a little bit more in it, right?
Better.
Not that they're not
Yeah.
necessarily, it's just they're kind of a tier below all these other teams. He seems like to me the guy that I would pick to win it right now.
I think, just if you're looking at quarterbacks, he's definitely the one who has the best odds right now to win it. I just think it's like an awkward year though, because like it was supposed to be the
He's
Spencer
got
Rattler
stats
show,
too, dude. He's leading the
huh?
SEC in rushing touchdowns, I'm pretty sure. And he's having a phenomenal year passing the ball. Like he has the stats to back it up.
Yeah, he does. I I think he does. Bryce Young is probably in the conversation as well too, because his numbers are just as impressive. It kind of if these two are in the running for it, just kind of who votes for him. Also,
I
I
also
I
saw that
think
Caleb Williams could have a chance.
thinking about it, he probably does have a decent shot at it. I mean, he's definitely going to be next year's favorite,
Yeah,
right? Like,
that's the Oklahoma quarterback for those that don't know.
yeah. But the thing is, like, how many games did he miss or didn't play at first? It was like 5, right? He didn't come in until Texas, so
But
yeah, it's 5.
yeah, that's
Like, he
definitely
would
the
give it.
big issue. But like if
You
he
give it to a
comes
guy
out
that
here,
played six
lights
and a
up
half
the
games.
world and leads him to a natty, is that not Heisman worthy?
Well,
Even
the
though he missed 5
Heisman.
games?
Well, we wouldn't know that because the Heisman's voted on before that playoff game, right?
Yeah, but
Was
like
somewhere around that same
if
time.
he's just leading them and Oklahoma's the number 1 team, right? And then he's just lighting it up every game because I mean, you look at the stats from his past 2 games, he's got a ton of touchdowns. He's got like
Oh yeah.
500 something or another I don't I
He
forget
had
the
like
exact
10
stat line, but he's going
he had
crazy.
like 10 against Texas. I know, like it'd be interesting. It's just, to me, like you played half the season, right? You played half. That's like, saying when Russ comes back and the Seahawks go on a run, Russ should win MVP because he was putting up better numbers. I, I think he'll definitely be in the conversation. I'm looking at his odds right now. They got him at plus 2,000, which is even better
So
odds.
right now he's in 1.5 games. He's thrown for 609 yards, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions,
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
with another 215 rushing yards and 3 more touchdowns.
So
That's
he's
pretty
just scoring.
crazy.
Yeah, he's just scoring.
In in
I don't
in,
know. That's
in 6 quarters of football, that's 9 touchdowns.
Well, first of all, look at it like this, though. I mean, we only seen a game and a half of this guy. I know he's going absolutely berserk right now and going off, and he looks like to be like could be the real deal for Oklahoma. But let the season play their course. I'm not gonna throw a bag on Caleb Willis winning the MVP, playing 6 games, saying that Oklahoma. This is still Oklahoma. They're gonna trip up one of these days against a good team. They are. It's just the way it goes. I
Maybe.
kind of like.
I mean, we can get into Oklahoma, because we're also going to talk about. So wait, first off, before we do that, any other Heisman considerations? Bijan Robinson, Texas running back, maybe.
Bijan Robinson for me would be a big one, just because the dude is yet to have a bad game. Now Texas is not, they've had what like 3 losses now in the season, so like they're not going to be in these high pressure games anymore, and like they're not going to be fighting for a Big 12 or, they're at this point they're just fighting to make a bowl, which they'll easily get. But I think BJ Robinson right now, him or like that Kenneth Walker out of Michigan State,
Yeah, Kenneth
you
Walker.
know,
I think Bijan's just too ahead of him though. Like, dude, Bijan's going
yeah,
crazy every game.
I'm just looking at the running backs that could do it. Like Trayvon Henderson, guy from Ohio State, he's put up a really good campaign. He could be like another running back that could get some love.
But
But out of
hasn't he
those
more
people,
so come on late?
I don't know. He had a couple good games early. I think it's just, he was a true freshman and they know he's talented. But now they're like, yo, this guy is actually the real deal. We should really utilize him in offense alongside of, Olave and their 2 first-round receivers.
I
But
just don't see it with him. I think it's going to be one of the former guys that we mentioned.
yeah, maybe. And then another shout like Desmond Ritter's put up like a quiet season. Cincinnati's really good. Like if they keep winning and he keeps on putting up numbers, he's going to be at that where they pick the Heisman. He'll be at the ceremony at the picking.
Okay.
I would think, and I don't. Right now, I would give him an outside shot, but if Cincinnati keeps going the way they do, he'll have a chance.
All right, that's fair. So let's get into the college football playoff. So we're gonna kind of talk about what we're thinking right now. So right now, I think the biggest lock is almost just Cincinnati, simply because they have the resume right now to be in that top four, and they have a very easy road coming up. They have one tough game against SMU, but it's still SMU, right? Like, tough game is relative. It would be a lot harder if you were playing like one of these top tier, even Big 12 teams, right? It's just like that
Yeah.
would scare me a little bit more. But they seem to be just, hey, let's just finish off the year here, and they'll be in the college football playoff as probably one of the top 2 teams with no blemishes on that resume.
Yeah, Cincinnati's interesting because I think out of all these teams, like fighting for these 4 spots, they control their own destiny because they've already got past the resume builder, right? You beat Notre Dame. I guess you could say you beat Indiana, but still. But you beat Notre Dame. So now you just got to run the table and go undefeated because you're already high enough ranking. They can't move you down, especially if you
Hmm.
keep blowing people out like last week. I know UCF was down some of their main guys, but just completely torched them,
Yeah.
completely torched them. Since that win against Notre Dame, this offense put up 49 last week and 50 points the week before. I mean, they're rolling all cylinders. Now, my problem with Cincinnati is sometimes you see it's like in the past, like with the Boise State with Kellen Moore when they were really good. You control your own destiny. The pressure gets to you. You have one slip up game. So I'd be interested to see how do they just stay composed and keep blowing people out, or will there be a slip up game like possibly against SMU?
I don't know. They're home against SMU. I just think that they've been too good to mess up, and I think they're just too talented that they're going to keep this hot streak going. Um,
Yeah.
all right, so the other lock, it seems like, and I didn't call them the number one lock just because Georgia's playing in the SEC, right? So Georgia right now, they're the number one ranked team. It seems like they're the one team that really looks the part of just this top tier SEC team. Not saying that necessarily Bama doesn't, but no one's even come close to being Georgia.
No, I don't think so either. I still think Bama can easily play up with them and not beat them. I still think Bama can beat them in a game. But yeah, out of because like we're still unsure of the top four teams, right? Because Oklahoma was shaky, but now it looks like they're kind of back, and then Bama lost. Georgia's been the one, stable pick where okay, Georgia belongs here, 100% does. You know, uh, I find it unless a total collapse, even if they lose the SEC championship against Bama, they'll be in the playoff.
So yeah, looking at the remaining schedule, they play at Florida, which is definitely a tough game, and that's going to be a chippy game. But the fact of the matter is that Florida has not looked great the past couple of weeks, and I'm not even sure they know who they want to play at quarterback next week. At
Yeah.
Tennessee, I think I like Tennessee. I don't think Tennessee's good enough. Maybe Tennessee's maybe because like the whole thing is you just need to get a couple big plays and then maybe you're in it. No one's been
Maybe
able
they
to do
score
that.
20 points.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't really see it happening. I think you're right, and that they're just going to kind of roll through onto the SEC championship. And by then, it doesn't matter if they lose to Bama or not. They're going to have a top four spot locked down. It seems like.
The only thing that I could see being up to debate is Ohio State gets going and they just roll everybody and win the Big Ten. Then there's a mark there. But like you got to remember, you still have some undefeated teams like in the Big Ten and the Big 12. Oklahoma State's undefeated. Michigan State and Michigan are all three undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say Michigan, let's say they're the real deal. I don't think they are because like they kind of play some tweener games where it's just kind of hard to buy into them because they're not truly dominant. But let's say Michigan runs the table, finally beats Ohio State, wins the Big Ten championship, right? Cincinnati, Oklahoma all do their job. They're in. It's 1v4 in the SEC championship. Bama knocks off Georgia. That's their first loss. But Michigan ran the table and is undefeated and won the Big Ten championship. Does Georgia get booted out, or does Cincinnati get booted out? That's where like
Cincinnati would
some
get
real
booted out.
that's
I
where
think.
some real chaos can get down, and that goes for Michigan State too. I mean, they're undefeated; they can run the table as well. I'm pretty sure that Michigan game has to be coming up soon, so that'll
Yeah,
be a great
Michigan
game.
State is coming up soon. It's in a I think it might be this week or it's next week, one of the two.
I mean, game day. I would say that's where game day goes, but more likely they're just going back to Athens. I mean, they go there every week, so. But
Well,
like,
the other thing I wanted to mention about Georgia is that a lot of their tough games have also been at home. And I think when you look back at that the Arkansas game, that definitely played a factor. On top of the fact that
oh yeah,
Arkansas had a really tough matchup the week before and was kind of coming into that game licking their wounds, whereas Georgia was coming off a game against Vanderbilt where they only had to play one quarter and they already won the game.
I mean, yeah, 100,000 people yelling down your throats, barking. Grown men barking at you. I mean, it's so
Spooky.
bad to see. Yeah, but yeah, it's played factors. Now they've gone into Auburn and held Auburn, and played decent against Auburn. Yeah,
No, they were
I
home
would
against Auburn too.
Were they home?
Yeah.
I thought that was at Auburn.
Oh no, you're right. It was at Auburn. Never mind. You're right. They were home against Kentucky.
Yeah. Woo. Big game. And Kentucky did cover though.
I mean, Kentucky's got some good players.
Yeah, but like you knew they were getting rolled that game.
So yeah, I guess okay, everyone else. So Georgia, Cincinnati, those are the two teams that right now, if they just do what they're supposed to do, they'll be in. There's not necessarily like not that the whole road is easy, but there's not the tough games and the resume's already been built. It's just following through for them.
Yeah.
So who's the next two? So you kind of have a slate of these handful of teams that have an opportunity: Oklahoma, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, and then I guess Oklahoma State and Michigan State, simply because if they win out, how are you really going to deny them?
Yeah, but the thing is, they're just not as dominant. Like Michigan State's had some freak games where they could have lost, but they flip the script, they grind out the win. Same with Oklahoma State. You saw it last week with Texas. Texas just can't hold a second half lead. Um, I just think that their roads for them is just extremely tough because they know they have to win out. You know, because they're not as
But
dominant as
the
these
thing is
other.
here is that they have the chance though, because if Michigan State comes out here and by some miracle beats all of Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, including a win at Ohio State, you're in. That is ridiculous. Like that is a sick resume. That
I
that's
mean, that's a
that's
hell of
better
a
than
run, but
Cincinnati easily.
yeah, but that'd be at one hell of a run,
Yeah,
especially
that'd be ridiculous.
it's just the likelihood of that happening is just it's not going to happen. It's just not. And Michigan State to me, like if you win two of those games, hell yeah, because like that guarantees you a New
So
Year's
yeah, that's the
Six.
other thing too. Now I'm thinking about it. If you win, if they beat Michigan and Penn State, let's say, and they lose at Ohio State, is that enough to be over Cincinnati, who's undefeated?
They yeah, you got to win your championship. I feel because Cincinnati's going to win their conference.
I mean, Cincinnati has the thing is with Cincinnati too is that they kind of done it in style, right? Like they have that. It's not like they have these close games. They've been just kicking the shit out of
Oh
everyone.
yeah, they blow them out. If you really watch that Notre Dame game again, I know like they got kind of back into it a little bit at the end, but again, Cincinnati kind of just like they were the better team. Like people want to live in a world where like the Cincinnati's, they look down upon them because they're non-power five. You can't compete with us big boys. It's Notre Dame. I know it is, but I think Cincinnati gives you a real gripe. Last year they competed with Georgia. It was
Mm-hmm.
they should have won that game. Now Cincinnati definitely cared more than Georgia that game. I'm pretty sure Georgia sat out a couple players, or they sat out because of the draft. But still, at the end of the day, I Cincinnati, there's a confidence in them that they know they can hang with these people given the test. Like
Man, I
Cincinnati
would,
versus
dude.
Michigan
Just
State.
imagine the first game, first round of the college football playoff. It's 1v4 Georgia against Cincinnati. The rematch. Oh my god, that would be crazy.
Well, everybody would be on Georgia. I would take Cincinnati, dude. Look, I think Cincinnati would be like, let's get it, and Georgia would crumble. They would choke,
I'm
like they did
rooting
in
for
the.
that so hard. I want that to happen so badly. That would just be so electric, that game. But I think the fact that we just can't have all these teams in here. Like, if we had a 12-team college football playoff and you
Oh, it'd be
threw
great.
all of Georgia, Cincinnati, Oklahoma, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Oklahoma State, Michigan State, Oregon, Iowa, and Ole Miss, that's electric, that slate of teams.
Oh, it would be great. It'd be so. That's why they need to expand it, right? Because we're just cutting out these we don't know teams. Like we know Michigan State, Oklahoma State, and Michigan are undefeated. And they beat some good teams, but are they the real deal? Because we're seeing Georgia and Bama. But we're seeing Georgia, Cincinnati, now Oklahoma just beat down on teams.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it needs to be expanded, just to give us, a little more. Give
Yeah,
teams
I
a little
need some
more
more
hope.
too. I mean, Alabama is obviously still in this college football playoff, and they're
Oh, they'll make it.
at the end of the day,
Unless,
even though they still have that loss, it almost feels like Alabama is still the pace and like the team to beat to a certain extent.
yeah, well, like for Bama, right? Like you can't lose another game. You were
Mm-hmm.
given one freebie. because like the committee or the polls are still not going to rank you like out of the top 5. So you're back in the top 4. You just got to win and beat Georgia in the SEC championship. That's your job.
I wonder who do you think would be a favorite in the SEC championship if it were tomorrow, Georgia or Bama?
Oh, I think they would lean Georgia. I think it would be like
I did too.
Georgia like 2.5 or something like that.
Yeah, 3-point kind of a game, just crapshoot. All right, let's get into a quick college football recap. First game I want to talk about, Tennessee against Ole Miss. This game was
Oh my god.
absolutely wild. So at the end of this game, okay, for those who don't know, freaking Lane Kiffin used to coach at
Got hit by
Tennessee. Wait, what'd you say?
you got hit by a golf ball.
Oh, yeah. Well, so he used to coach at Tennessee, leaves, and then this is the first game he's back at that stadium. And the fans were hostile, to say the least. So at the end of the
Oh
game,
yeah.
there was a third down and like 18 for Tennessee. It's a one-score game, really close. There's like a minute left. And they complete a pass over the middle. Their receiver dives for the first down. It's super close. They end up not giving him the first down. Turnover on downs, Ole Miss ball. Most of the fans think, okay, that's the ball game. They all are pissed about the call and are start chucking bottles, anything that they can find. There was a mustard, a full-on mustard that was chucked onto the field.
Yeah, the mustard bottle.
And then they pan to Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss staff, and you just see right like a second after they pan to him, a golf ball just comes in and nails him, and he like picks it up and shows it to the ref. It's like, dude, what the hell? I'm getting nailed by golf balls. Tennessee at home, might I add, gets all the cheerleaders, the band, they're all out of there. They evacuated. And it was just absolute madness. And what was funny too is that all the fans started to leave because they thought the game was over. Tennessee gets the ball
And they got
back.
another chance.
And they got
Yeah, they had a
another chance. And you see all the fans from like the top rows are starting to pour in, right? They're starting to pour in. Tennessee ends up losing the game. And then they're like, fuck it. More bottles. They just start chucking more crap onto the field. Lane Kiffin, as he was going off the field, is like obviously waving to the fans. You know, he was throwing some digs at him in the post game interviews. As he's going into the tunnel, chucks the visor at all the fans, flipping him off. A bunch of fans dunk all their drinks on him as he's going into the tunnel, and he's just making, he's having a great time. Wild ending to that game.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was a crazy ending. But like, also Tennessee actually had a legit shot at the end to win that game. That backup quarterback came in, and I think he just forgot. Like,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
a
So the play that
spot.
they lost the game, they were on like the 30-yard line, 20-yard line.
Yeah, he just ran. He runs away. Gets away from the pressure. And it's like, all right, dude, just heave it to the end zone. See
Yeah,
if
like a
something crazy.
Hail Mary, just
He
chuck it in there to someone.
scrambles and runs out of bounds. Game over. It's like, dude, like you had to know going in the huddle, like, hey, we have one play to get to the end zone, like just make something happen, and he just decides, I'm gonna pad the stats a little bit.
So Tennessee loses that way. They were obviously really pissed. Really good win for Ole Miss. Got to give him credit where credit is due. I thought Matt Corral went into a hostile environment and played very well. He this game really did show the maturity of Matt Corral from last year, in that this was the type of game that Matt Corral last year would go into and throw like 4 picks, 3 picks, and just lose it. But keeps the streak alive. No interceptions for the guy. Played really well. Ole Miss on offense did what they needed to do, scored enough points to beat a good Tennessee. It was a little bit more low scoring than people thought. Like the over under coming in was like what, 80 something points, 82 points.
I think it was 82, and like the second half. I mean, it was a 14-7 ball game.
So,
you just take that half,
mm-hmm.
and they weren't scoring. But yeah, that Corral, he threw 1 pick, but I'm pretty sure leading up to
wait,
that,
he threw a pick? I thought he didn't throw a pick.
He threw a pick.
Are you sure about that?
I'm looking at the stat line right now.
All right, well, I screwed that up. He only threw 1 pick then.
But still, like Matt Corral last year, that's a game where he would throw a couple picks and get away from them. I thought, you know, for what that game was, that was one more. That had to be the wildest game this year, just from a fan interaction. But
Oh
I think
yeah,
that's why.
just absolutely wild ending to the game. Another game that happened: Auburn against Arkansas. Steve, do you have any thoughts from this one?
I think this is where you kind of just see all these tough games for Arkansas. Kind of catching up with them. Because I didn't like this matchup for Arkansas to start off with. I thought Auburn coming off that loss, and then Arkansas coming off a loss as well. But that's an emotional loss because you did everything just to stick around with Ole Miss, and you come in here and you get beat by Auburn pretty handily too.
Yeah, well, it's like the Bo Nix roller coaster. It seems like one game. I mean,
Oh,
for
one
most of the
game.
season, he's been playing well, and then he plays Georgia, absolutely shits the bed. I mean, rightfully so. It's the Georgia defense, but then kind of comes out here and looks great again. And well, Auburn also had that one scare against I don't even
Georgia
know the team. It was a ridiculous team. What was it?
Georgia State.
Was it Georgia? Yeah, it was Georgia State. Like he goes in there, struggles against Georgia State, and then again, I'm not going to come out here and say the Arkansas defense is extremely impressive, but 21 for 26 passing, almost 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Like, well, here's the Bo Nix that we were expecting, right? Like,
It's got to be so frustrating as an Auburn fan. Just be like, well, you don't know what you're gonna get. Auburn to me is like the Vikings in the NFL. Like you don't know what the hell you're gonna get every week, dude. Like you could get, damn, we look like a top 15 team in the nation, or damn, we're not good at all.
yeah.
But
All right, next game, Oklahoma State against Texas. Just the same story a second week in a row for Texas. They go up big early. They look unstoppable, right? It's like, oh, well, here we are. Texas, we're sick. It's 17-3. Texas is driving. They throw a pick six, so it becomes 17-10. And then for a second week in a row, once they lose momentum, they're
they're
never
screwed.
able to regain it. And then they just
Yeah,
end up losing. Their defense can't stop anything. And they end up losing another very, very winnable game.
yeah. This is for Texas in first year for Sark. I mean, you kind of look at it. You've had two bad losses now, where like the team has came back from multiple scores, right? And you got to clean that up. There's promise that you look like you are a good team, but then just something in the end always like screws you up. So that has to be cleaned up. Oklahoma State, I think that should be more like, are we actually all this good, or was that kind of more of a trap game? Like Texas was ranked at the time you're playing at Texas. It's a tough place to play, and you come back and win. But all in all, Texas, you got to learn how to hold on to a damn lead, bro. And I think that has to do with Sark.
And the other question is, are we just going to start taking Texas for first quarter from now on? Is that the bet?
I mean, yeah, first quarter, first half. I mean, hell, they could win a natty if they played like they do in the first quarter. But because they come out guns a blazing, and then after that, it's like, dude, you got 3 more quarters left.
Yeah, it just becomes mistake city. See, I also wonder. I don't really know, but it almost feels like some of this has to be. I think at least for the Oklahoma game, some of this has to be put on Sark. I don't necessarily know as much with the Oklahoma State game, but it feels like Texas always comes out really aggressive, guns ablazing, and from a mentality standpoint too, it just feels like their players are like have more of like a yeah, fuck
Oh
it.
yeah,
And then they
yeah.
go up, and then once they see the lead on the scoreboard, it's just like, okay, now we just need to hold on. And they stop being aggressive and start that, oh, let's just hold on mentality. Let's start playing a little bit more
Yeah,
cautious. And then that ends up boning them because they're not able to then flip that switch back without just making mistakes.
yeah. They play too conservative, and that at the end of the day, that screws you.
So unfortunate loss for Texas. And Man, these losses, it stinks because this could have easily been 2 wins for Texas, 2 back-to-back really, really good wins. And who knows what kind of season that could lead to, right?
I mean, they would have been ranked somewhere around the top 10.
Definitely. LSU, Florida. This is a wacky. I mean, we kind of touched on it a little bit. I touched on it in the Coach O section, but yeah, it's just LSU kind of came in and said that we're going to run the football, and that was a game that there was like I think there was 20-mile-an-hour winds there, so it was a little bit annoying to throw the football for the teams going into the wind. And I came in thinking that that was what Florida was going to do, that Florida was going to be the team that said, hey, we're just going to bully you up front like Kentucky did last week. We're just going to run the crap out of the ball, and you're not going to be able to stop us. Well, that happened for LSU, and they ended up winning a game with a ton of injuries against a team that was better than them.
Yeah. I mean, good job by LSU. You know, you got the report this week that Coach O's done kind of rally around him, get him like one, big, not signature win, but another big win for him to like at least hang his hat on. Florida, listen, what the hell has happened this season for you? You know, you
Yeah,
start
who
off the year
knows?
hot, and then you almost beat Bama. So it's like, okay, Florida's actually, in this. Then we lose. They lose to Kentucky. Who else do they lose to? LSU
Yeah,
now.
just
So
lost to
that's
LSU.
pretty much.
Yeah, the season
I
is just spiraled out of control.
Yeah, it's just terrible, and I think it comes back to what I said in the preseason. Emory Jones is not a good quarterback. The confidence level for me to say Emory Jones as my starter can go out there and keep me in this playoff contention is literally zero, and it's still zero. If I could go negative, I would. He's just not good. He's not like he might be a great runner, maybe. I don't even think he's that great of a runner, but the dude cannot throw the ball.
Yeah, well, last game especially, like there were a couple things going wrong with Florida. First off, against LSU, the turnovers killed you because they were actually moving the ball pretty well and they were in the game, right? And at one point they were down a lot of points, and that wasn't really a true
Yeah,
reflection of what was going on in the game. But they just turned the ball over so many times. And the second thing that is really surprising, especially like you said, after they play close against Alabama, is that teams like Kentucky and LSU with a really banged up offensive line were able to bully Florida up front. And you would have expected, like, they hung in there against Alabama up front, against Alabama's ridiculously
yeah.
insane offensive line.
It makes no sense. It kind of just makes me think, they're undermining some of these teams and really got up for Bama. Is that trend going to happen when they play Georgia? Are they going to play them close? Like I don't know. I don't know what to expect with this team. They're weird.
Yeah, and I think that teams realize, like, okay, Florida's secondary is really freaking good. Let's just beat them up front and force them to commit a ton of guys in the box so that we can eventually, like, dude, that LSU quarterback was not great. And he made some, in the beginning of the game especially, he could have thrown like 3 picks in a row. But it got to a point that they were just winning so easily up front that it was one-on-one coverage down the field. He's just throwing it up to LSU receivers, right? They happen
Yeah.
to be pretty good, even the bench guys. So wacky game. Can't believe that Florida has just lost it like this. So Georgia, Kentucky, another SEC matchup. Can't say that we weren't necessarily surprised with what happened. Georgia comes in here, plays another really good defensive performance, just kind of beats Kentucky with their physicality. I think the way that you could describe Georgia as a team is you just have to look at teams' field goal attempts against them. And you see these massive individuals that just destroy, pancake like the entire offensive line and block kicks. Like that is Georgia. And that's what they've been doing to every team they come up against.
Yeah. I mean, nobody gave a shot in hell for Kentucky to win this game. It's just, it's not going to happen. I thought, you know, Kentucky did a good job with staying in with it. Kind of at first they were hanging tough, but like again, Georgia's just the more talented team. They're going to beat you. Kentucky did cover though, so you
Yeah.
know.
Well, Kentucky's a team like Chris Rodriguez, their running back, is really good. They have a pretty good, powerful offensive line. So, like, they're a team that kind of likes to develop the run and then use play action and zone reads and develop their offense on the back of that, which you're just not going to be able to do against Georgia. You're not going to be able to beat them at their own game.
Yeah.
Utah against Arizona State. This was like the highlight Pac-12 game of the week. Massive game for both of these teams in that conference. And it was a tale of two halves. The first half, Arizona State comes out. They're winning 21-0. We're thinking, hey, Arizona State looks great. Jaden Daniels, their quarterback, is making plays. They're looking explosive. It's like, oh, well, here's the Arizona State that we saw that beat UCLA. All of a sudden, second half, I don't know what happened, but Utah just went in there and just started bullying Arizona State, especially their offensive line. Like, Arizona State couldn't get off the field. They were just pounding the rock over and over and over again into the end zone every possession in the second half, and Utah ended up blowing them out.
Yeah, I mean, like, I just don't understand, like, how it just spiraled out of control like that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It was like Arizona State's, like, we're talking about this team might be, like, a little low-key, like, a playoff contender if they keep playing like this and they win this game. But, damn, yeah, one half flipped that script so fast.
Well, now it's like, what the hell is even going on in the Pac-12? Because let's just assume UCLA is right now a favorite over Oregon. So it's interesting to see that Vegas agrees with what we were saying and that we like UCLA over Oregon, regardless of what UCLA has come up with. And because they've had a couple of rough games, they've had a couple of good games. But we think that based off what we've seen, they're a stronger team than Oregon. Vegas actually agrees with us. So if Oregon wins this game against UCLA, they're the team. It seems like the strongest team right now, quite easily in the Pac-12. But assuming they lose, all of a sudden it's like, well, which two-loss team do you like the most?
Yeah, take your pick. I mean, let's see here. What conference is Pac-12?
Now, Oregon hasn't lost a conference game though. They've just lost. Oh wait, no, they have. Yeah, they lost to Stanford. What am I saying? It's just so weird. The whole thing is wide open now, and Utah's right back in it too.
Well, Utah is the only one undefeated in their conference.
Mm-hmm.
And you just beat like the biggest scare. UCLA's back in this now. Those three teams are in it for their side of the division. Now for the Oregon side of the division, it might come down to that Oregon State game. You know,
the thing is, Utah's still got some really freaking tough games coming up.
Yeah, they do. They got to play Oregon State this week. That's tough. UCLA, tough. Stanford, you never know if they're going to come away with an upset. Play Arizona, so that's a bye. Then you play Oregon. So,
I mean, at least you get UCLA and Oregon at home. That's massive. And, I mean, Colorado is not – they're not insane, but they're not necessarily a pushover at the same time.
Well, that Oregon State game alone would scare me if I'm Utah.
Yeah, Oregon State, like, just another one of those teams. It's like they have a couple of really good players, and if they're able to just make a couple of plays, who knows, especially when you're on the road.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you have a shoe-in for any of these teams who's going to be representing the Pac-12 and, you know, one of these New Year's Six bowl games. Because I think it's between 5 or 6 teams right now, and I don't know who's going to get it. Whoever.
I have no idea either.
I don't think, like, with all these losses and, you know, just bad play in the second half and the great play in the second half, like, I don't think any of these teams actually want it.
All right, so just some quick games. UNC comes up over Miami. Battle of the Shits.
Yep.
Are you out on both of these teams? Because I know I am.
Oh, yeah, 100%. These teams suck.
Pittsburgh puts on a little bit of a whooping against Virginia Tech. I thought this game was going to be closer. I actually took Virginia Tech money line in this, thinking it'd just be a one-score close game. Pittsburgh,
yeah, I was a little bit close.
Dude, Pittsburgh is looking great. I must say, they look really good.
Yeah, they look out of all the teams at ACC, they look the best. You know, Just they have the quarterback, they actually have a capable offense, and they played good D. So it might be Pittsburgh's year, maybe it's Wake Forest's year. I think it's going to come down to those two teams, but I think that was a pretty much a staple win for Pittsburgh to go on the road at Voltac and just beat them.
Purdue upsets Iowa. This was a shocker that really no one saw coming. David Bell goes out there against a really good Iowa defense and just puts on a phenomenal performance. What the hell, Iowa? You just got the crazy big win against Penn State, and now you're gonna fumble the bag against Purdue?
Yeah, that's just a horrific loss. And it's when these upsets happen, like it's one thing if you lose like with a freak play or something. I mean, I was just never in the ball game, right? And you were waiting for them to turn it on, but could. And you rely on that defense for turnovers. Wasn't happening. You weren't creating anything. You weren't able to move the ball. So I'm glad because after last week winning against Penn State, that actually drove me out of Iowa because like they just didn't look, like a top 4 team. Weren't playing like it. So it's nice that Purdue, showed them for what the frauds they are.
Yeah, the whole problem is that Iowa offense just another week in a row wasn't able to do anything. Against Penn State, they had a couple of really good schemed open plays, but against Purdue, that just didn't really happen.
Just didn't. Yeah.
Oklahoma destroys TCU. Kind of touched on this. Oklahoma looks like the Oklahoma team we were expecting, finally.
Yeah, offensive wise, they look.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to mention is that's the one thing that almost scares you about Oklahoma once again is that I thought in the beginning of the season and outside of that Tulane game week 1, because it's week 1. I'm not going to kill a team in week 1. I was expecting this Oklahoma defense to be better, right? I thought we were going to finally see, they've put a lot of resources into making sure that they're getting good recruits, especially up front on that defensive line, linebacker, right? And we've seen they've started developing some pretty damn good players over there.
Yeah.
Recent performances are not pretty for that defense. And it's just kind of another, we got a Big 12 defense. Sorry, what are you going to do? We got to put up 50 points to win.
It's crazy, like how for a point there when Rattler was the quarterback, the defense had to step up and keep them in these close games because the offense wasn't scoring. Now that the offense is going back to scoring, you see the defense kind of falling back to where they were. I will never understand Oklahoma. I just don't understand. Like you're Oklahoma. You should be just demolishing teams, and they are now. But like you're just giving up so many points.
Yeah, it's just what the hell. It is really a what the hell. Very hot and cold team, right? It's just what the fuck. Because you're right. Yeah. Like at one point in the season, it's like, okay, well, we got the defense. Where's the offense? Now we have the offense. What happened to the defense? Come on. Michigan State, like we said, continues. Good win over Indiana. Would have been at the beginning of the season, it looked like a much more important game, but Indiana is just not as good as anyone thought they were going to be. Yeah. Baylor beats BYU. Pretty sizable win. You're kind of a Baylor guy. You're impressive win, expected. Any quick thoughts on this one?
It doesn't shock me. I think Baylor, out of any of those Big 12 schools, I think they have the better defense. So, like, that's how they win these ball games. I still think their quarterback sucks, but, I mean, good win for them. Wish they could have did it against Oklahoma State and won me some money, but, Baylor keeps rolling, though. That's 2 weeks in a row they're playing good. If they play Oklahoma, I would watch out.
UCLA beats Washington. That was a pretty close game, but UCLA, pretty strong performance in my opinion from them. Offensively, it wasn't anything special, but they scored enough points and that they had a couple of good drives. And I thought defensively they looked pretty good. Washington has low-key some pretty good players. I think they're a young team to a certain extent, but they got a receiver who's pretty good. Their quarterback is all right. They have a decent running back. I think they have a good little team going on there. So, yeah, just good win to keep pace.
Yeah, I think that's a good one for the UCLA because, like, you just look at the Pac-12, right? Like, you don't any given week you could lose. You go on the road to Washington at night. I think UCLA coming out there with a dub and keeping them in this Pac-12 is huge.
Yeah, it's just a good win from a veteran team, right? I think that was just a good example of like, dude, that veteran presence of UCLA really showing up and pulling through for you there.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we have to mention it. Our guys, South Carolina, a measly 1 point comeback win against Vandy.
They're so bad. They're
I,
so bad.
yikes! That's all I gotta say is yikes. What happened?
And usually, I'm a guy that says like, doesn't matter if you win by inch or a mile, winning's winning, right? Not when you're playing fucking Vandy, you know.
Just little
That's
asterisks next to that one, except for
yeah.
Vandy, UConn, and UMass. Like,
Because like, come on, we're talking about UConn almost beat Vandy, you know, like almost beat. It was a really good game, and we're barely beating Vandy by 1 point at home, and it's homecoming too. That's just bad.
yeah, it was really bad. What the hell is going on over there? All right, let's move into NFL football though. So I got to start it off with a quick little victory lap. Titans money
Okay,
line. Give it to me.
you
Give
did call it.
it to me. Inject that right in my veins. Titans with a huge win over the Bills. We got to talk about it. The fourth down play from the Bills. We were talking about it before the pod, too. I agree that you should go for it in that scenario, especially given the context, right? Your defense can't come up
Yeah,
with a stop. Your D line has been getting bullied all night. Even though Taylor Lewan went down, it didn't seem to make a huge difference in the run game. So, like, we've seen it time and time again. Not the Vikings, Titans take a game to overtime, and they just keep handing the ball off to Derrick Henry, and your defense just keeps getting hit and hit and hit, and they ended up winning. But why would you call a quarterback sneak against the Titans?
yeah,
How
it's
I
bad.
put it is, if I'm a guy, I wanted the Titans to win, right? I had them as my dog of the week. I was like, hey, Titans are being undervalued, plus 200, really like the value. If you were to tell me before the game that this game is going down to the Bills doing a quarterback sneak on the goal line for the win, I would be the happiest guy in the world, right? I'm saying, fuck yeah. At plus 200 odds, I'm putting the house on that. Fuck it. Why not?
Yeah, 100%.
Because you look at the Titans, first off, they have only like 3 players who can tackle, most of which being on their front 7. Their whole secondary has been a massive issue for years now, on top of the fact that they had like 2 corners get injured in that game. They're
Yeah,
on like their 9th string corner. And the Bills, like, dude, look at your team. You have Stephon Diggs, who you trade a first round pick for, who's been phenomenal, probably worth more than that first round pick. You
yeah,
have Emmanuel Sanders, who you just brought in free agency. Cole Beasley, who you brought in free agency a couple seasons ago, is one of the top slot receivers in the NFL. One of those guys is going to be one-on-one against someone in the Viking secondary on the goal line, on top of the fact that you have one of the best pass blocking offensive lines in the NFL, on top of the fact that you have Josh Allen, who, if the play breaks down, well, he's one of like the top 4 guys I would want to have the ball in his hands to make a play with his legs. We're not calling something along the lines of that compared to the quarterback sneak.
yeah. I guess he thought it was just 1 yard. He could kind of just push it in there with Josh Allen, but yeah, I think if game's on the line, why just settle for something like that when you can just put the ball in your playmaker's hand?
Well, just especially given the context, like you're playing the Titans, you're playing a team who has injured players during that game on the secondary. It's like the matchup is too good for me to pass that up and go for a quarterback sneak, especially
Mm-hmm.
when like why? I just didn't understand that. So like, especially when I saw Josh Allen, because they didn't line up under center, right? He kind of ran up under center and then called it. Like when he ran up under center, I was like, please, quarterback sneak. I am praying that you sneak this because I would much rather that than like half of the other plays that you could choose.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless, I just think that this kind of boils down to, dude, the Titans are a playoff team. They got Bud Dupree back in that game, and they had Julio back in that game. Somewhat healthy AJ Brown. He kind of transitioned his like injury into he had food poisoning. So
Yeah, he had old food poisoning. I think he got it. He said he got it from Chipotle. So
yeah, I heard he got it from Chipotle. Come on, Chipotle. What's
you
going on
ruined.
over there?
So I don't think AJ Brown's going to be doing any partnership deals with Chipotle. So,
Yeah, watch out. Dude, they got some crazy stuff going on over there at Chipotle. I feel like every 2 years you get some sort of E. coli outbreak. AJ, you're food poisoning. AJ Brown. What's going
yeah,
on over there? And it was a home game too, so that's a local Chipotle, you know?
yeah, it is. It's local, probably right next to his apartment or wherever he lives.
Dude probably was playing against AJ Brown in fantasy that week.
Yeah, he was just through this, throwing a little E. coli.
Hey, here's the mystery meat for you. All right, Steelers Seahawks, scare for the Steelers on Sunday night. I mean, this is a classic Steelers game. I'm pretty sure we said it on the pod last week or the pick segment last week. Dude, the Steelers love in a prime time game like this just being like, backup quarterback? Yeah, we'll make this a game where we have to win it on a last second field goal. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, the thing is that first half y'all were winning so handily, and then I
Alex
guess the D.
Collins was just like, I'm going to turn back the wheels of time and look like freaking
Yeah,
Eric
I mean,
Dickerson out there.
he was just able to kind of run and do whatever. At the end of the day, though, you got the win, so I guess that's all that matters. You live to fight another day.
Yeah, I'm kind of annoyed though because man, that was a really tough football game, man. That was like, dude, there were some collisions in that game. It was a grindy game, a lot of running, smash mouth football, and I can imagine that both of these teams are coming into this next game a little extra sore than usual.
Yeah, 100%.
So I wonder if that has some sort of an impact on this next week's games. Jaguars finally get a win against the Dolphins. Good for the Jags. I think it was a long time coming. They were in a couple of close games.
Yeah, eventually they were going to win a game, and like the Dolphins are just so. The Dolphins are hurting, right? Like they need a quarterback. Well, like I didn't think Tua played all that bad too, but
No, you
like
didn't.
it's
Well,
just
the problem is that against that Jags, I forget exactly because the game was. It feels like it was a year ago, but
yeah.
they were moving the ball, but not scoring a lot of points. Whether it was settling for field goals, or I think they had some penalties, or something that took them out of field goal range a couple of times, or maybe they went for it and they didn't convert. Dude, like when you're moving the ball against the Jags, you can't just let them stay around.
Yeah, you got to score. I mean, what are we doing, right?
Like you only put up 17 points against the Jaguars defense. Dude, you don't deserve to win.
Yeah, you got to do better than that. And for some reason, the Jags just kind of like playing in London. I think that's a bulk of their fan base.
Yeah,
the
no, I
Brit.
actually think that there are a lot, like London has a lot of Jaguars fans because they play there pretty frequently.
Yeah, so like they had home crowd like that.
Yeah,
Now
it
it
was a
wasn't
home game. It was a home game for the Jags.
basically a home game for the Jags. Like
Jags are just like, hey, we're playing every game over there. We're going across the pond, baby. Like,
I mean, yeah, might as well be where do they play it? Tottenham Jaguars.
I think the other thing to take away from this game, first off, James Robinson's really good. We're finally seeing him being used like he was last year, and it's really helping out the offense. And secondly,
Yeah.
we're really seeing the development of Trevor Lawrence before our eyes, like comparing him to the first couple of weeks of the season. And like, you look at that Cardinals game, how he was coming in, they were winning, and then he just throws picks. And then, the first game of the season against the Texans, he's just out there, doesn't know what throws he can and can't make, right? We're finally see Trevor Lawrence, because he had that little drive to get the Jaguars into field goal range to end up with a shot to win it. Like, he's making some plays, and now you're starting to get a Trevor Lawrence that you can trust with the football. And I'm curious to see how, if the Jags, if their defense is able to get any sort of semblance of momentum off of this game, you miracle held the Dolphins to under 20 points. Maybe we see the Jags be a little bit more competitive.
Yeah, I think that's coming. T-Law, you knew T-Law was going to be great in this league. I mean, it's just going to happen. He had a little rough go at first, but yeah, you are seeing him picking up on a few things, playing a lot better.
Bengals absolutely destroy the Lions. I thought this game would be a little bit closer. They almost screwed my under in this game in the second half. There was like 25 points scored in the fourth quarter alone.
Oh.
I think that this is kind of a scenario where the Lions offense was just so trash. Especially like, they were just getting bullied. They couldn't run the ball at all because their line couldn't really block anything, and DeAndre Swift wasn't helping them out too much. Jared Goff wasn't really able to do much. He was missing a bunch of throws. And after a while, you give an offense that's as talented as the Bengals enough opportunities. They're not the best offense in the world. They've been extremely inefficient, but you give them enough chances, they're going to score.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people coming in thought this would be the week that the Lions would get their first win, especially after PC Principal cried, and like got all emotional. But yeah, the Bengals just kind of beat them down. The Lions aren't good, and I feel bad for Lions fans. This is just what you have to endure during a really bad rebuild. Like, you're going to be competitive in some games. That's what you can do. But, I mean, the Bengals just flat out just beat your ass,
Yeah, Dan Campbell, the Lions coach, called out Jared Goff after that game. He said, we need more from it. He said we need more from everyone, but then he specifically referred to, we need more from Jared Goff as well. Like, he needs to be the leader of this team. And
I think that's fine to call him out like that.
I agree. I agree that you need more out of Jared Goff.
You got to hold your players accountable. Like, this dude was a first overall pick. He's played in the Super Bowl. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's played at MVP level in the past. I'd be like, listen, dude, like, I know you just think you over here in Detroit, we're not going to try to win. We'll replace you. Like, we trusted you. We traded for you. We want you to be our guy. So be our guy.
I just think that the entire offense needs to be called out for that performance. I understand the Bengals defense has been playing really well, and it's a very improved unit, but there's no excuse for that performance. And it really made your defensive players, like, it forced that defense to be on the field for a ton of the game, and it forced them to get stop after stop after stop after stop, which is just kind of unfair to them. Chiefs beat the Washington football team. This was an ugly game still. The Chiefs are it was almost like one of those games where not necessarily who wants to win less, but it's just like, okay, the Chiefs are struggling, but they're still the Chiefs. The Washington football team is simply just struggling.
Yeah, they're down. They are not playing good, and I think that comes from quarterback play. I don't think Heineke's the guy. This is where you're really seeing that he's a serviceable backup, but like, he's not a starter.
It's just everything's going wrong. The defense isn't playing as well.
The defense, like, what the hell? Like, I don't understand why they're playing so bad. They're just, they're not playing at the level like they should be playing, or like what they played last year.
This whole team, I almost feel like, and I hate to pin this on this, but it feels like just because it's the Washington football team and all the crap that's going on around the organization and whatnot, every single game for the Washington football team, they're not able to get in a rhythm, and they're not able to get in a groove it looked similar to the beginning of last season for offensively. Defensively, they were really good, and they were stymieing offenses all the time. But, dude, on both sides of the ball, they haven't been able to establish any sort of identity. They haven't gotten in any sort of rhythm, any sort of groove. They just look uncomfortable. A lot of it, they're not able to live in any world schematically right now because they're not able to do anything consistently. So what is going on? I think that they just need to change some things up, start thinking outside of the box, because talent-wise, this team shouldn't be losing in as many games as it has been and how they have been.
Yeah, there's definitely something wrong. It needs to be fixed because what are they 2-4? They shouldn't be 2-4. You got to figure this out. You got to play better.
Like, maybe it is the quarterback position, but I really don't think all of it's on Taylor Heinicke. Like, that offensive line could play better. That running game is, I mean,
the running game's been non-existent, really.
yeah, like Antonio Gibson's health has been kind of in question every week, and he's just been battered and banged up. But regardless, there's no sort of consistency. Terry McLaurin, I don't want to put it all on him, and I think that he's been the one player that kind of has been shut up. He's just getting doubled all the time. It's like, Dimey Brown, maybe you need to show up, right? And without Logan Thomas, it's like someone replace him. I think that they can turn it around. It's just something that needs to change. I don't necessarily know exactly what it is. Vikings beat the Panthers. I'm sorry. The Vikings is just, what the hell is this team?
Yeah, you don't know.
I mean, we joke about it on the picks segments that we do. We're going to be recording that tomorrow. Dude, I stay away from anything involving this team, gambling-wise, because you don't know what the hell you're getting. You have no idea.
It's not a Vikings game unless you get some OT. All right, like this team is so. Oh man, I feel for that fan base because it's like waking up Christmas morning and unwrapping your present to see what you get. Like you get
and it's like for both sides of the ball. Offensively, they've been pretty good, but some games they can't move. Some drives they can't move the ball. Right, like the Browns game.
Some games they can move the ball and their defense can't do crap, and then some games they're getting stops and then their offense can't move the ball. It's just, they're funny to watch. They're fun. They're entertaining, and they're sitting at 3-3 now.
Dude, I love this team. I don't know how Zimmer's still going. I feel like if I were their coach, I'd just be having heart attacks left, right, and center. And,
he's definitely taking some baby aspirin.
All right, Colts smash the Texans.
Yeah.
Nothing really here, right? It's just Davis Mills. He looks all right, but he's still like, you can see that he's just not able to really put the ball in the end zone.
He's not ready to play. Everybody knows he's not ready. He even knows he's not ready to play, but he has to play,
The Colts finally figured out in the second half of that football game, hey, Jonathan Taylor, our running back we have, is one of the better running backs in the league. Let's just start using him like that. And he started making some plays happen, and they win the game. Packers beat the Bears. They cover the spread. I will say this much. I think this is kind of an unfortunate game for the Bears to a certain extent because you had the one play when they were looking like they could have got 3 points where there was an offsides. Justin Fields thinks there's an offsides. He decides to do one of those, hey, let me just chuck it up to the end zones. But the ref did not throw the flag, ends up as a pick, and you lose out on 3 points there. Man, like the game just kind of got away from them a little bit. They didn't take advantage of enough chances when they had them. You only score 14 points, and the Packers are going to beat you every time if you do that.
Well, it just every time the Packers and the Bears play, it feels like it's the same kind of game, Like
well, the Bears' defense was doing decently well this time around. It's not like the Packers' offense was high flying, scoring every drive.
Oh yeah, but even in the past, it hasn't been really like that too. It's just like I don't know what it is. Even with like a new quarterback in Justin Fields, it just still feels like the Packers just own them. As long as Aaron Rodgers is there, the Bears will not beat that team.
Dare I say, what if Mitchell Trubisky is playing this game?
I think I think it's definitely. I think the Bears could easily pull that out just because Mitch would now have experience and know what to do more.
Just saying, Mitch Trubisky, end of last season, was a good quarterback. We seem to be the only people that were giving Mitchell Trubisky any sort of praise in the freaking world.
Yeah, hell yeah, I'm giving. Dude, he's the MVP.
I don't know. I still think I'm looking at a lot of teams in this league and saying I think that they would be better off with Mitchell Trubisky as their starting quarterback.
Yeah,
Maybe not a lot,
football.
but there's a handful of teams where it's like, are you sure that this guy was playing better? I mean, dude, he carried that team to the playoffs off the back of the offense, right?
Yeah, I mean, teams that would like to have Mitch Trubisky right now, the football team, the Dolphins, like teams like that.
Maybe the fucking Colts. To be honest, and I'm not going to say that Carson Wentz has necessarily been playing bad, but let's not start crowning him the best quarterback in the league. I think right now he's towards the bottom end of the picks in the litter of what quarterback you'd want. What about Jared
Yeah.
Goff? Go watch that Bengals game over again, and tell me that Jared Goff is going out there and looking like a first round pick, and then
Yeah.
compare that to what Mitchell Trubisky was putting out at the end of last season. Oh well, we're going to make all the excuses in the world for Justin Fields about how the offense is bad. But when Mitchell Trubisky is actually producing with a very similar offense, it's, oh, he sucks. He's the problem.
Yeah. I think it's completely unfair, but
Like I'm not going to come out here. I've said this take before on the pod, but I'm not the biggest Mitchell Trubisky guy in the world. I'm not going to come out here and act like he's a high quality starting quarterback. But the fact of the matter is that if you're blaming him for the Bears' struggles last season, especially at the end of last season, beginning of last season, I can agree. But at the end of last year, once he got comfortable and he really turned it around, that was a new Mitchell Trubisky, and that looked like the Mitchell
yeah,
Trubisky that you drafted him to be.
yeah,
Just
especially
took
when
him
they
a
got Daniel
while.
Jones on.
Cardinals beat the Browns. This was nice for me. Took the Cards money line. Um, Browns are just battered up right now, but it was also kind of annoying to see a Browns team that I know you really like. I've started to buy into a little bit. Cardinals got up early, and the Browns were turning the ball over, and the Cardinals had two good drives to start the game. But outside of those two drives and one drive late in the game for them to just kind of run the clock out, it's not like the Cardinals' offense was really great or anything. It's just the Browns couldn't do anything. They were turning the ball over. Half of their points came off a Hail Mary at the end of the game. What the hell is going on?
Yeah, the Browns are beaten up now because now they lost Kareem Hunt too. It doesn't look like they're going like. I think Jarvis is coming back this week, so that would help out the
You
passing
want to know
game.
what they need? Is that I'm pretty sure they were missing both of their freaking tackles, and Shredder was hurt. So like their whole offensive line, the identity of that team is battered up.
Yeah, they're definitely like struggling, scuffling a little bit, and you want to see them put together. But in this game right here, Cardinals got ahead early, and the Browns could just never really fight their way back to get in the game. You know.
Mm. Um, Broncos lose to the Raiders. Raiders went up early in that game. They had a little stretch in like the beginning of the fourth quarter as well, where they, kind of put the icing on the cake, and then the Broncos they started playing better in the second half and started to kind of get back in the game, but it was really never a game. And the
Yeah.
Raiders get a big win off of the news of John Gruden. Dude, it felt like when John Gruden got fired, it just felt like it. I'm not necessarily sure I saw anyone say it, but you kind of got the feeling, and especially with the line that the Raiders got in this game, that this is a done season for the Raiders, that this team is done. They're not going to be able to make the playoffs. They're probably just going to be a little bit under 500 and kind of have a classic another Raider season. Dude, they're a 4-2 football team, and they're still in this thing.
Yeah, 100%. I'm not counting out the Raiders. I mean, we both bet on them last week. I think this is a good team, especially from the offensive standpoint of view, right? Like they can compete with anybody on any given day.
And
And
Derek Carr is really good.
yeah, he is. And I think you saw like them have those 2 week stutters for a couple reasons. They definitely knew what was going on with Gruden, so I think that might have was killing the locker room a little bit. It was kind of hard to play for him. Also, it's just Raiders, right? Like you're going to get a couple of those games. It's just mitigating those games to less, so you have a winning record. And I think this was a big turn because the Broncos are still thinking, everybody's still on them about the 3-0 start. This team ain't that good, man. They're banged up too,
Mm-hmm.
especially on the offensive side. So I kind of like the Raiders. Just now, it's still up in the air because it seems like every time an interim head coach comes in, they win their first game, right? So, and
Yeah,
let's see what he
you
does
did say
now.
that.
It
So,
happens, dude, every time.
I mean, one of the things I noticed about this game to me, and I mean, I'm not a Teddy Bridgewater hater. I think he's decent. I think he's about an average to slightly below average quarterback in the grand
Yeah,
scheme of things, in terms of just a talent level. But Derek Carr is good. You see, there was one throw he had on a I think it was a wheel route down the left side to Kenyon Drake, where he has a beautiful touch pass over a linebacker. I think there was a safety coming over the top, but it fell before the safety could get there, and it just put it right in Kenyon Drake's breadbasket for a touchdown. Or he got out at the 1 yard line, one of the two. I think it was a touchdown. And it's just
yeah,
like, dude, you look at the confidence flowing through Derek Carr. Now with no Gruden there, like it almost feels like he's the leader, unquestioned leader of the offense. And this
yeah.
team is
This
going to
is it.
go as far as Derek Carr takes them.
Yeah, this is his team. He knows that. Um, the thing is, I trust Derek Carr to succeed, so that's why if if the team goes the way he goes, I'm confident this team will be in the mix at the year.
Well, the other thing that's interesting about Carr too is that I saw people on Twitter and even some of the guys in the Dynasty Pod were saying, "Oh, I'm unsure about Derek Carr's future." But if you look at it, man, he's had consistent success under multiple coaches, a whole slew of different offensive coordinators, different moving parts all around him. This offense has been pretty good ever since
Yeah,
Carr's been there, and he's been the consistent piece there.
100%.
Cowboys get an overtime win against the Patriots. Um, man, this is a weird game, really weird game because
Yeah,
this is exactly how this game was. Is this 2 play sequence? I mean, it's technically like 4 or 5 plays, but Trayvon Diggs gets an interception. I think it was a pick six, right?
yeah, it was.
And then the next play after the PAT and kickoff, they go right back at Trayvon Diggs, hit him with a double move. It was what's
Kendrick,
his name? Kendrick
Kendrick.
Bourne. KZ, the safety, got a little bit too deep, tries to undercut the pass, and then all of a sudden, next play, Patriots are right back on top in this game.
Yep.
And man, it was a tightly contested game, went to overtime. Cowboys ended up winning it. Really stinks for the Patriots because like they've been playing well, and you look at Mac Jones, like Mac Jones looks to be everything you wanted him to be in the 15th pick of the draft, and as like what the fifth quarterback off the board.
Yeah.
Um, so like I think John Smith said it best. This is a 2-4 team that we all know isn't. They don't really play like a 2-4 team.
Yeah,
That's not their talent level.
they've gotten some tough breaks where they are playing good, but just that side of the scorecard ain't hitting right now.
Yeah,
They
especially
got
that Dolphins loss is looking really bad when frickin' Gaskin or not Gaskin, Damian Harris fumbles and they lose the game.
Oh yeah, you win that game. I mean, first of all, you don't start. What are they now at home? 0-3, 0-4, something like that. I know they haven't won a game yet. I think that will change once they play the Jets, but
Yeah, they need a Jets week really badly right now. And
pretty sure.
they need to execute, though. They need to actually win this game against the Jets because I think the Jets could have some momentum a little bit too now that they're starting to play a little bit better, right? Zach Wilson isn't just out there throwing 9 picks a game.
Yeah, that's nice when your quarterback doesn't do that.
So that's all the recap. You got anything else you want to say from what was that, week 6?
Week 6. Week 6, one of the most stress-free football weeks of my life. Well, that'll be the stress-free week because now we get back on the Falcons off their bye.
All right, so we can kind of get into games that we're looking forward to for next week for a little bit before we end this. You want to start this off with NFL or college? What are you feeling?
We can kick it off with the NFL.
Well, okay. First things first. We've got this Broncos-Browns game tonight that is 40-point over under. Browns are a 1.5-point favorite. The wounded Browns.
And the Broncos are wounded as well, too. I mean,
What are you thinking, Mr. Thursday Night? Who are you thinking of picking for this one?
I see. My play is going to be. I'm doing a teaser where I get the Broncos at 7.5, and I get the under at 47.5 or something like that. Because I don't think these teams are going to score.
You don't think so?
I mean, the over under is at 41 right now. I'll boost it back up to over, unless I want to go the other way and take it. What would that be? 34.5 or 35? You know. Then again, what if it's just a grudge match? Because like we got the Keenum starting. The thing is, the Keenum, like, he's played well in the past.
I don't know what the hell is going to go on in this game. I'm kind of just staying away from it, especially because, like, dude, a bunch of players for the Browns are out. So I agree with you. I think I would more lean Denver just because they're a little bit less injured.
Yeah.
But like if JC Treader doesn't play, and Conklin doesn't play, and what's his name, the left tackle Jedrick Wills doesn't play. Like if all three of those guys are not playing, yeah, give me the Broncos easy.
Yeah, Von Miller will have a day.
Because it's just like, dude, and that's not even mentioning guys like Malik Jackson. I think one of the more underrated D tackles in the league. He's questionable. What are we getting out of him? Malcolm Smith, a linebacker. He's questionable. Owosu Koromoa apparently isn't playing. Mac Wilson, he's another linebacker. He's questionable. It's like, if a lot of these guys aren't playing, cool. If Odell and Jarvis Landry are back, like I think the public might be like, oh, well, Jarvis Landry's back. It's like, dude, I don't give a fuck if all these other guys aren't playing. They're all more important to me.
Yeah, that's tough.
See, I'm definitely, I don't know. Now I feel like I've talked myself into the Broncos. I'm just waiting to see these injury reports because I think this is definitely a play where if you see that there's a lot of these guys being out, especially both of the tackles. If both of the tackles aren't playing, all of a sudden I'm looking at this and I'm like, dude, Browns should only put up 7 points against the Cardinals last week outside of that freaking Hail Mary. And that's with Baker playing.
Yeah.
And that's with most of the game of Kareem Hunt. I don't know what the hell they're going to do without it.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I don't see them moving the ball or score.
Aside from that, dude, I'm looking at these lines for the games this week. I don't know what the hell I'm going to take, to be honest. There are two games that I like as value plays, and I don't even love these teams. These are both teams that I was low on coming into the season. But it's almost like one of those scenarios where I think the hate might have gone a little bit too far. And that's the Dolphins I like this week against your Falcons. Simply, yeah, everyone's hating on the Dolphins. There's a lot of disarray. The Falcons are playing a little bit all right. Dude, are you really going to tell me that you're thinking that the Falcons are going to win this comfortably? That the Dolphins can't? Like, the Dolphins have had some close games. It was a close game against the Jaguars. They had a close game in Vegas, right? They've had back-to-back road games. They get a home game against a Falcons team. I think that they could win this one.
Yeah, they could easily win that one. I mean, it's the Falcons.
I'm trying to see if there's any crazy injuries here.
Falcons, for the most part, should be healthy.
Yeah, Fowler is apparently questionable. But yeah, the Falcons are actually looking like a very healthy football team right now. So the annoying thing with the Dolphins that I did not realize is Xavier Howard and Byron Jones are questionable. That's something I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on and see if they had practices for if I take them tomorrow or not.
Yeah, that'd be huge.
The other game I'm looking at, dude, I'm kind of liking the Bengals at plus 220 against the Ravens. That one's a little freaky. And I'm not really a huge fan of the Bengals, but the fact of the matter is they're plus 220. To put that in perspective, the Lions were plus 160 to beat the Bengals last week. the Titans were plus 200 to beat the Bills. Like, the Bengals are plus 220. That is like really, really good odds. I would more price this at like a plus 180.
I from value point of view, yeah, it's really good. So like, why not? But again, the Ravens are just kind of on that roll right now. It seems like where they're just firing all cylinders.
Yeah, they are. And that's what's scary. But divisional game is a new and improved Bengals team. It's just one of those classic scenarios where I'm trying to take my feelings out of it. I'm not necessarily hugely confident in the Bengals and winning this game, but it's just value town. It's worth it just to take.
Yeah.
That's the perspective I'm coming at. I still got to think about it a little bit more. Look into the matchup, look into the stats, look into the injuries a little bit, because that's the other thing too, is that the Ravens are still a pretty injured, banged up football team, right?
100%.
So can Lamar carry them again? Is the Chargers kind of came out really flat against them, and I mean, I'm not going to blame them for this necessarily. They were being really aggressive in that game, trying to go for it on fourth down a whole lot to come back, and they were trying to be aggressive to get back in it, but it really backfired, and that game was kind of just over before the fourth quarter hit.
Yeah.
Any NFL games that you're looking at early?
Dude, I'm with you. I don't really like the slate at all, you know?
Well, dude, listen to some of these spreads. Rams, 16-point favorite against the Lions. The Cardinals are a 17.5-point favorite against the Texans. 17.5 points.
That's just ridiculous. And I'm not going to bet on
Buccaneers, 12.5 points. And, like, that's not even the extent of it. There's two more two-score games I'm seeing. Packers, 7.5-point favorites. No, not the Jets. The Patriots are a 7-point favorite against the Jets. You're taking them to win by more than 7. Like, just a lot of high spreads.
Yeah, it's just one of those weeks that maybe you try to find an over-under you like and just bet that.
I mean, yeah, maybe if you're really confident in one of these blowouts, I actually think that teams with these really high spreads aren't as bad or cover more often than you would think, right? Because I
Yeah.
think I'm just naturally like, oh, I see a really high spread like that in the NFL. I'm like, dude, I just don't like taking it. But a lot of the times, I really don't think they're as bad as you'd think, or as you would be inclined to think.
It seems like if you're a big favorite, most of the time you upheld to it. But like I'm like you. I just like I see 17 points. I'm like, damn, that is so many points for this team. Like, right? Because like you got to get off to a hot start and everything. I rather just like look at the games that are within a touchdown.
Yeah, the other game I'm looking at is this Monday night game where the
Saints.
Saints and the Seahawks are playing. If this
Yeah.
wasn't Monday night, I would be more on the Saints, but I'm kind of coming off the perspective that, dude, that Steelers-Seahawks game was a really grindy game. I think that both of those teams are going to be banged up. But the extra day of rest, I actually think really could help out Seattle. I still might take New Orleans. Once again, this is another scenario where I'm going to think about it a little bit. I mean, it's just the Steelers, right? The Steelers are just going to play the teams like that close, especially on primetime.
Yeah, 100%.
It looks like the public's starting to get a little bit more on the Titans. That spread, it looks like it's gone down to 4.5, 5-ish from 5.5.
Nice.
So that's interesting. And that under, the over-under is increased as well. A point and a half. It's 57.5.
Ooh.
Well, hold on a second. Let me do some quick calculator math here. 28, 29 points a team in a Chiefs Titans game.
I mean, you got to think Chiefs are locked for 30, right?
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they're. So what? They're thinking it's going to be like a 34, 32, 27 kind of a game, somewhere around there, right?
Probably, yeah.
So that's interesting. Man, I'm just not liking a lot of these games. Eagles, Raiders. I have no idea what's going to happen. Like you said, it's an interim coach. Like, what's the intern going to be like? Is he going to be able to continue the success, or is it going to be okay? Now we see a flat Raiders team this week.
Yeah, dude, dog of the week's gonna be rough this week.
Oh yeah, I have no idea what I'm going to take for the. Maybe I'll just go with like the Lions at +16 and just say screw it. They're going to cover, baby, or they're going to win. Not even cover.
I mean, that'd be a great play.
College football. I'm trying to see if there's like a really big game. Oregon UCLA, I think, is definitely a really fun one. Oklahoma State, Iowa State, that's another really fun one. USC Notre Dame, I thought that coming into the season that was going to be a much better game than it actually turns out it's going to be.
Yeah.
Clemson Pittsburgh, that's going to be a really interesting game.
That's a good game. Oregon State. All right.
Yeah, other than that, it's just not really a lot of juicers.
Well, there's not a lot of like just big matchups, you know. I mean, like, not even that.
Yeah, there's just not really like two powerhouses going at it. I thought that you would really see that this week, like just a really fire matchup. Like, dude,
Nevada,
I could really use that Michigan State game this week. That's a game that I really wish was going on.
Yeah, that would be good. Nevada versus Fresno State is good.
Yeah, I'm going to tune into that one because I like the players playing in there.
But other than that, like this is kind of just chalked, you know.
So in terms of games that I was looking at, I've got a couple of games that I was looking at. I wrote them down. NC State is -3 against Miami, I believe. Miami, to me, is just kind of a fraud team.
Yeah, they're not good.
Ole Miss -9 against LSU, kind of going off the backs of that. LSU's a banged-up team. I think that Florida game, Florida lost that game more than LSU won that game. I might sprinkle a quick Ole Miss -9. And Georgia Tech is +205, which is interesting. I forget who they're playing, but I thought that was pretty good odds for the scenario.
Yeah, I like that.
Where are they playing? Alabama, Tennessee. Alabama's a 25.5 point favorite. Oh, they're playing Virginia. They're a 7-point dogs at Virginia. And I was thinking that, hey, Georgia Tech might be able to win that one. The Nerds.
Yeah, you never know what you get out of the Nerds.
I also just don't love Virginia all that much.
I mean, the Nerds are going to play tough. That's the thing. So,
I mean, that Virginia offense has been pretty good, but I need a turnover or two from the Georgia Tech defense, and maybe they can hit that +205.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't been having a ton of success in college football, so I might just scrap all that or just take the spreads that I was looking at. But yeah, I'm not loving the board. You liking anything for college this week?
No, I don't, dude. I did maybe Nevada +3 against Fresno State, but like that is just something that caught my eye again here. I'm gonna have to get in the lab for tomorrow and really.
What's the money line on that game?
Let me see. I gotta pull it back up. Down here at the bottom, +140 for Nevada.
I might look at that. I actually kind of like that.
I think it's gonna be a good game, dude. I just like again, you never know.
Fresno just hasn't really been playing that great of football recently.
Yeah, you know what's even better? We got a game that starts at midnight on Saturday, so Sunday morning.
What game is that?
Hawaii versus New Mexico State on the island.
Okay, how much is Hawaii favored by?
18.5, I believe. 18.
I don't know if I want to touch that.
You don't want to stay up until midnight watching the game on the island?
I was thinking about it, but I just have no idea what's going to happen, so I'm not just going to take it just to take it.
Yeah, I mean, it is the island though, so that's where dreams go to die.
All right. So you got anything else you're looking at? What are you thinking about Pittsburgh Clemson?
This is where it scares me about this, right? Because Pittsburgh should be favored, and because they're the better team, or at least with the better offense. But Clemson, I don't like Clemson being an underdog. I don't like betting against Clemson I like betting against Clemson when they're favorites, right? When they have the 2-score favorite, and I can be like, okay, that's they're not going to cover that. But as an underdog, Clemson could outright win that game, win by a couple points, because like their defense is still dominant unless say Pittsburgh just turns over the ball a couple. So like I don't really like that game too much. I'm probably just gonna stay away from it in general.
Yeah, I think so too. And the Clemson defense is still really scary. Like they could easily just go out there and carry the game.
Yeah, that's what I like. I'm afraid that's how I think it's gonna go because I think Clemson's gonna win that game, but they might not.
I don't. Maybe I'll just go Clemson money line. Maybe that's the game I've been looking for all along. Just a talented team that can easily win it.
Well, you could always look at it and be like, well, I get Clemson plus money. When is the? You're not gonna get that many times.
Yeah, I actually might take that, even though I want Pittsburgh to win. You thinking about taking UCLA over Oregon?
It kind of scares me that they opened up as favorites. I don't like that.
I just think Oregon's kind of fraud.
I do too, but I got it's 1 point, so it's basically pick 'em. So, wasn't UCLA and it's so weird, but I guess it's good that UCLA is playing at home. So I think that's huge.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe I'm just gonna go all college this week. I also got to get in the lab and figure out what I'm going to be taking for tomorrow. But with that being said, I think we're going to do it here, Steed. If you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Hit us with a subscribe on the YouTube. We'd really appreciate it. We'll have the picks video streaming tomorrow. Steed, are the Braves playing tomorrow, or is that like a if kind of a scenario there?
It's an off day, regardless.
All right. So, what time are you thinking we should go on for tomorrow?
Anytime after 6.
All right, so 7 o'clock ish, we'll be recording our picks for tomorrow. So if you're looking for some game picks for this weekend, tune in then. But thank you so much for listening, and peace out. We really enjoyed having you.